We're going to go over linear forms. We are going to cover standard form, slope-intercept form, point-slope form, and the slope formula. So first thing is that we are going to cover the standard form of an equation of a line. Standard form is very unique in the sense that it always has the x and the y values on the same side. And so what we will typically see is something like ax plus by is equal to c. Notice that the x and the y coordinates are on the same side. A, b, and c are just going to be numbers, and typically those would be your coefficients. So as an example, we would see something like 2x plus 3y is equal to 5. Note that A is 2, B is 3, and C is 5. They are just numbers. Standard form is really good for us. Some of the advantages are one, finding your x and y intercepts. Your x-intercept is very important, and your y-intercept is very easy from here. We also, it kind of eliminates all of our fractions. You rarely ever see standard form with fractions. And just to reiterate here, when we're looking for our x-intercept and our y-intercept, those places always happen when the x-intercept happens when we have a point x comma 0, and we have a y-intercept at the point 0 comma y. So for our equation here, if we wanted to figure out what the x-intercept is, we could very easily just substitute the values x and 0 for x and y. So you would see something like 2x plus 3y. Well, y is 0, so 3 times 0 is equal to 5. Note what happens here is that the 3 times 0 will just become 0. So what we typically have is a very easy one-step equation. We have 2x is equal to 5, so x is equal to 5 halves as we divide across. This is your x-intercept, 5 halves. The same thing for the y-intercept. We would just substitute 0 and y in for x and y. So 2 times 0 plus 3 times y is equal to 5. Again, 2, 0 cancels. So we're left with 3y is equal to 5. So y is equal to 5/3. That is your y-intercept. Knowing where your y-intercept is and your x-intercept with the 0 values is very important. It pops up all the time. But again, reiterate that x and y are on the same side for standard form. Your second form is probably the most familiar to you. That form is slope-intercept form. Okay, and slope-intercept form is very familiar to you because it is y equals mx plus b. It is the one that is typically taught in schools, and we really like it. We really like it because we are given two things. We are given the slope, m, and an intercept, namely the y-intercept, which is b. So m is slope, which, by the way, and given the slope equation, we can figure it out. So given 2 points, we use y2 minus y1. These are just coordinate points divided by x2 minus x1. Very easy here, but we can use that to figure out what our slope is. And b represents the y-intercept, which again, I want to reiterate that happens at the point 0 comma y. Slope-intercept form, the advantage of it is it's really useful to graph with, because in order to graph a line, we need 2 points. And so the point we start at is the y-intercept, and our next point is generated by our slope, which you remember is your rise over your run. So we typically can read it that way. How far up do we move? How far to the right or left do we go? Very good here. I always remember slope-intercept form because we need the slope and the y-intercept. If we don't have that, then we can't use slope-intercept form. Note as well that structure-wise, y is by itself. So anytime you are solving or converting to slope-intercept form, you want to solve for y. Now, the last form is called point-slope form. And it is the form that is probably most used. And the reason why is because we typically don't have the slope and the y-intercept. So we have to start somewhere and work towards slope-intercept form, typically. So in this particular case, point-slope form takes on the form of y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. And again, we are given a point and a slope. Our point is x1, y1. And again, slope is m. So from here, you would typically see something like this. You would have like y minus 4 is equal to m, let's just say 1/2 is my slope, x minus 3. And from here, I can identify my point. My point is the x and the y. Notice that we're subtracting both of them, so the point is going to be the opposite of that. It's actually going to be positive 3, positive 4. My slope is 1/2. Oh, my slope is 1/2. So really quickly, we can identify those pieces. Point slope form is very, very valuable. Your typical setup here is going to be given 2 points. So given 2 points. When we're given 2 points, we can use those 2 points to figure out the slope, and then we have a point. So point slope form. We need a point and the slope. Typically, we will see 2 given points first, though. All right, so let's go through a few examples of these. One of the biggest things is that we need to be able to convert among all 3 of them. And so we're going to look at a few problems here to do that. So the first problem that we are going to look at is we're going to be given an equation here. We have 3x minus 2y is equal to 16. One of the things you should do in your head here is identify what form is this? What form? And really quickly, we should be able to say that this is standard form. I know it's standard form because the x and the y are on the left-hand side. You don't have to go any further than that. Its left-hand side is x and y are together. And again, that is ax plus by is equal to c. Notice how that structure fits very nicely. Now, the goal here is to write the slope-intercept form of the equation of each line. In this particular case, we're in standard form, so we want to go into slope-intercept. Well, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So here, we want to solve for y, is what they're asking us to do. Fantastic. So let's go through that. What you'll see is that as you go through these, the steps are identical every time, and it should only be 2 steps. The first step is to subtract 3x. We want y by itself, so we're going to subtract 3x. We're left with negative 2y is equal to negative 3x minus 16. Note here that I went ahead and put the negative 3x before the negative 16. I do this because I want it in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to go ahead and structure it that way. Y equals mx plus b. I want my mx first for the b value. And then the last step here is that you just need to divide by negative 2. We do this because we want to isolate the y value. So we end up with y is equal to negative 3 divided by negative 2 is positive 3/2 x. Negative 16 divided by negative 2 is positive 8. And there we go. We have our slope-intercept form. Our slope is 3/2 and our y-intercept is 8. Very straightforward. The worksheet that you will do will have more of these. The second type of problem we want to work on is given a point given a point and a slope, we want to come up with the standard form of the equation. And again, here, the big things we want to focus on are what information are we given? Well, we are given a point that is not a y-intercept, and we're given the slope. Hence, the form is point-slope form. Okay, so point-slope form, if we remember, is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. I'm given all that information. We have the point x1, y1, and our slope is m, or 7. So I'm just going to substitute here. I'm going to have y minus 2 is equal to m, 7, times x minus 1. And I pull that straight from the given information. So from here, our goal for the problem is we want to convert this into standard form. So we want to convert point slope form into standard form. Standard form is ax plus by is equal to c. So I want my x and my y on the same side of the equation. Well, the steps here are as follows. The first thing we want to do is we want to distribute 7. So our left-hand side stays the same. Y minus 2 is equal to 7 times x, 7x, 7 times negative 1, negative 7. From here, I want to move my x to the left-hand side because I want x and y on the same side. So I'm going to subtract 7x. Again, I'm stacking it appropriately. I want my x first plus y minus 2 is equal to negative 7. I want to go ahead and structure it for standard form, x first, y second. The last step here is just to add the 2 to the other side because I only want x and y on the left-hand side. So add 2. So we're left with negative 7x plus y is equal to negative 7 plus 2 is negative 5. Note, this is standard form. This is standard form. Ax plus by is equal to 5. Or c. So from here, we have a is negative 7, b is 1, and c is negative 5. One way that you might see this is that we actually have a positive out in front. And so the way you do that is you multiply everything by negative 1. So this is also an acceptable answer, to have 7x minus y is equal to positive 5. Either of these works. They are definitely doable. And lastly, let's do one more equation here to work on. And our equation is going to be write the point slope form of the equation of the line described. So we are aiming for point slope form. Well, fortunately for us, point slope form is very straightforward. Point slope form, again, point and slope. I need a point and I need the slope. Well, the point for us, y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. This is our goal. We need a point and we need the slope. So the information that we're given is the line passes through this point, x1, y1, and is parallel to this equation. One thing to note here is this form is slope-intercept form. So I can go ahead and figure out what my slope is. My slope is negative 3/4 for this equation. We are looking for a slope that is parallel to this line. Parallel slopes are identical. So the slope of our new line also has to be negative 3/4. We will go through parallel and perpendicular slopes and lines in another episode, but this is parallel. So negative 3/4. Well, fortunately for us, we're given a point and a slope. So we have that. All we need to do is just substitute in y minus 2, our y coordinate, is equal to our slope, negative 3/4, times x minus our x coordinate, so minus 4. Technically, this is the end. This is point slope form. However, I want you to take it a step further, and I want you to solve or convert into point or into slope intercept form. We want to move this into y equals mx plus b. So that tells me we want to solve for y. Well, our first step here is going to be distributing the negative 3/4. So our left-hand side stays the same. Y minus 2 is equal to negative 3/4 times x, so negative 3/4 x, and then negative 3/4 times negative 4. Negative times a negative is a positive, so let's go ahead and do a plus. And then you have 3/4 of 4, so the 4s will actually cancel. Note here that we have 3/4 times 4. The 4s cancel, so we're left with 3. So plus 3. We're getting close. Slope intercept form tells me I want y by itself. So the last thing to do is just move the 2 to the right-hand side. So we get y is equal to negative 3/4 x plus 3 and 2 is 5. And there we go. That is slope intercept form. So you will need to go through the rest of the worksheet on your own. You have an example of each section from the worksheet. Just go through it and check yourself. The answers are at the bottom. And if you have questions, then come to the session with questions.